Have you ever felt stuck in your career and wondered if it's time to move on? In this video, I'm sharing 5 key lessons that I have learned over the years to see if you should stay in your current company or if you should move on and make a switch. So first thing, how do you know if it is a perfect time to move on to a different company? First question you should ask yourself is whether do you enjoy your work in your current company or you are just dragging yourself. So if every morning before getting up from your bed, you always ask yourself, is it a good time to go to office, or should I be doing this, or is it really what I'm meant to do? If you're just dragging yourself towards your office, you're probably not enjoying your work. So ask yourself if you're really enjoying your work. If not, it's probably one of the signs that you should make a switch and you are just dragging yourself. Another question in the same domain you should ask is whether you have the growth potential by staying in the current company. For example, you're working for a startup and you do enjoy your work and there are just 5 people and one of them is leading you. So you really don't have space to grow in terms of career ladder. Even if your team is big, for example, 20 people. And if the company is not growing or hiring more people, it is probably they will not introduce more hierarchy in their team. So you will be just stuck in your current role. It is possible that you are enjoying your work, but if you are looking at in a long term, wanting to grow as a manager, if you want to become a CTO, a CEO, a product leader, then this is probably not a good spot to stay in. Not saying that startups are bad to work. It is an immense and very good and valuable learning experience to work at a startup. But sometimes if you want to really grow in your career to get senior roles, then you have to make a switch. Here you have two options. Either ask your manager what your growth path is, and they might say that this is what it is, or otherwise they can show you a growth path where you would have to learn skills. So if you're enjoying your work and there's a growth path, then it's not really a time to switch, but to improve your skills. Whereas if there is no growth path for you, think about it and you might want to make a switch. Coming to the other point, one of the key things that I look for a company is what my team looks like. I really want to work with people who motivate me, who bring me up, who would teach me a lot in terms of growing my career, in terms of my technical skills. So if you're enjoying working with your team, you are in a really good spot. I have been lucky to work with some of the greatest minds in the software industry. And I have been lucky to get best teams always. On the other hand, if your team is someone which brings you down, doesn't let you experiment, doesn't let you make mistakes, or look down upon you when you make a mistake instead of encouraging you and bringing you up back, then you actually might want to find a different team. Teams and your manager is something which will make a big difference in your career moves. If your manager is good and they actually coach you on your career in terms of growing your career, improving your skills, including the technical and the soft skills, you are really in a good spot. Because there is always a risk if you switch, you might not get the perfect manager again. So if you're not in a good team and the team demotivates you and you don't really feel like to work with those people, it's time to make a switch. So if you think your team is demotivating you and you really don't enjoy working with them, it's time that you think about going to another team. So if you're in a big company, it's possible to switch a team which have a good reputation. Otherwise, you would really have to switch companies. Switching to a team in the same company is far more easier than switching to a different company. That is because you will have to carry a lot of baggage when you're moving to a different company. You will have to learn the domain, the technology skills, and everything else that comes when you switch careers. But moving in the same company is a lot easier, especially if you work with the multinationals. If you have option to switch within the company to a different team, try that first. Maybe it's just your team and the overall environment of the company is really good. What you need to do is to just change your environment, switch to a different team, try things there. It might be that your team is bringing you down, and switching to a different team would completely change your game. One of the things you could do if you feel stuck in your current company is to ask people who have already left this company. Now you have the power of LinkedIn when it comes to connecting with other people. So search people who were working at your company earlier and they moved to a different company and ask them what really made them move. Is it a better culture out there? Is it better pay out there? Is it more motivation? Whatever the case they may have, you will get an external perspective of what or how things are different and the world outside of your company. And if you really want to be crystal clear in terms of whether you should leave the company or stay within the company, make a list of the things that make you excited and things which frustrate you, and see if those things which frustrate you can be solved within your current company. Many times you just have a gut feeling that it's just time to switch. Nothing is working out. You are demotivated. You never want to come to the office. You never want to work on those same projects you have been working on for years. Then It's really not a question of making less, but finding a better company. One of the things that comes to me when switching companies is the growth mindset over comfort zone. Switching companies is never easy, and it comes with a baggage of learning new things, getting yourself comfortable in a new environment, learning their culture, trying to assimilate within their culture. And all of these take time, and it is at least 3 to 6 months that when you actually feel that you have fully onboarded, and then you try to make your mark. So when you are switching, you are actually getting out of your comfort zone. But this is what might be the requirement of your current company as well, that they might be wanting you to take up new roles, take up more responsibilities, speak more. And that might be something you are wondering whether I am able for this or not. So that is not the point to switch your companies, but to improve your skills, to take on that challenge, to grow in terms of career, to learn new skills, to take that leadership role, to be more comfortable in growing yourself rather than just being in your comfort zone. So this is more important when it comes to thinking about your career in long term. Think about in 7 years, in 10 years, what do you want to be in 10 years? If you're looking to be in very senior roles in 10 years, then what I've seen is staying in the company and being an expert within that company makes a lot more sense to get promoted rather than switching. So most of the companies prefer those people who have been into the company for a very long time. They know ins and out of the companies, all the processes, and they are the go-to persons. So definitely their de facto choice would be to choose them. So if you're looking your career in the long term, the best choice is to stay in your current company if it's not a toxic environment. Now, if you don't have goals for your next 5-10 years, take some time and think and write them down. Where do you want to see yourself in 5 years? I know it's an interview question, but it's a very important question in terms of career growth. If you don't have your clear goals set for you personally, then you will not make the right moves in your career. Whether it's time to choose a company, whether it's time to choose a technology or lead a particular project, or take responsibilities, all of those decisions will depend on where you want to be in 5 to 10 years. So as an action item, write where you want to be in 5 years and see if the current company goals and responsibilities align with your goal. If not, then make a choice to see if switching your companies will make sense for you in terms of your career goals. So one of the most common questions I get when it comes to company switching is whether should we make switches fast? Does it look bad on your resume? Or is it okay if I make a switch within a year or two? So I myself have made at least 6 switches in my career. My longest period of staying in a company is 3 years, and others are close to 2.5 years. Does it really look bad? I don't think so. It all depends on what value you bring to the company which you are making a switch to. The current company hired you because they saw value in you. The other company will hire you because they will see value in you. So if you have developed skills over the time which will help you make a switch, then it really doesn't matter how often do you switch. Of course, if you're switching month to month, that is a bad thing. Only once in my career I have been rejected in terms of making a lot of switches. I don't really think it makes a bad impression on your resume. It is just how you communicate your value during your interview process so that the company is ready to hire you. One of the drawbacks in working very long for a company is that you might end up working on obsolete technologies. So for example, there was a framework 10 years ago and you are still working on that framework, which others are not using, or they have transformed their tech stack and are using new technologies. But for some reason, the company didn't move on and they're still using that obsolete technology. And your company might take advantage of that because they know that others will not hire you because this technology is not being used, and they will not raise your pay. And it will become a difficult scenario for you in terms of switching because you won't find jobs. You would have not built your skills in terms of modern technology. You would have not learned the new frameworks which the newer companies want. So now when you make a switch, you might get a tough time in switching companies because you already have 10 years of experience. So they are expecting at least something from you. You have not learned the new framework, so you will take time to learn. And being a senior developer like 10 to 15 years and not learning new things also raises a red flag. So currently, if you have spent a lot of time in the current company, make sure you are learning the new skills and not just sticking to one. One of the ways that I keep myself updated and which have always helped me switch to a bigger, better company is to learn new technologies and make sample projects, which builds my portfolio, and then now I have something to show to the newer company. So interestingly, I have worked on many side projects, and each side project I have worked on have helped me to get a new job or make a switch. So balancing your stability and your work-life balance is one thing, but if you really want to make progress faster, you would have to make some effort and sacrifice in terms of keeping yourself up to the pace with the technology advancements. So use your weekends to basically learn new technologies, watch tutorials, watch conferences, and build something which is of interest to you. You don't have to make a startup every time. You don't have to build a very successful project every time. It can be just simple to-do list just to see how the technology works. Or it can be just a simple project idea, something to automate in your daily life. That's basically what it takes to build and learn a new technology. Start with a small project. It might turn to a startup, which not necessarily is a requirement. The requirement is to learn new things. And sometimes it gets really confusing in terms of whether to make a switch or not if you have a very great offer and the company you're currently working in is also a great company. So your manager is good, your team is good, you're working on interesting projects, you're motivated and you actually want to come to the office. But the other company is giving you twice as much as your current income. So should you make a switch or not? This is where you have to make a calculated risk. So switching companies has never been a bad decision for me. And my first company which I switched was basically in terms of getting more monetary value. The first switch is always very difficult. And if I would have never taken that risk, I would have never ended up working for Intuit. Now, when it comes to make a choice between these two scenarios where the company is good, the manager is good, the projects are motivating, and you are actually motivated to go to the office. And on the other hand, you are getting twice as much as pay as your current employer. What you should do? It really depends on your life scenario. Sometimes making the switch for the monetary value is a good thing and would make your life more stable, would give you room to breathe, would give you more experimental space. And my first switch was basically because of monetary value. Because of the life circumstances, it was much more feasible for me to make a switch than to stay in my comfort zone in a very good company. Visualizing is a good technique when it comes to making decisions, and if you write them down, it really helps you visualize in terms of longer term. Now, one thing that I've learned so far in the career is to see things in a more broader way. So if you're really looking to make a switch, just give yourself some time and see if this will make a good or a bad impact in the longer run. Sometimes it's a good choice to stay in the company and improve on your skills. Other times it's good to make a switch because you are in a toxic environment and there is no room to grow. So after weighing your pros and cons and seeing that if staying in the current company is a good decision or making a switch, just give it a broader perspective and see if your current analysis makes sense in the longer run. Would it be beneficial if you see your career in terms of 5-10 years? It would make a lot more sense if you think in long terms and give a broader perspective to it. One of the reasons that want us make to switch to different company is our low confidence and the current environment we are in. Sometimes the first impression becomes permanent in our personality and we want to change that. And one of the ways to change that is to just change the environment. So if you go to a new company, you are in a very brand new environment. Your first impression will not be a permanent one. And there is a chance that you can improve on your social skills. So if you're one of those who are struggling with confidence building, so here's the video which will teach you how to build up your confidence. And if you're looking for a switch and want to craft a good resume, here is a video which will help you create a good resume. I hope you liked the video and would love your feedback on the video. Tell me in the comments what made you switch in your current company or any other career questions that you want me to answer. And I'll see you in the next one.